Hello, this is the first video follow-up for any of the articles on adventures in biology. So today we're going to be talking about the ivory-billed woodpecker, the Lord God bird, the Grail bird, ghost bird. It has many names. So of course, as an ornithologist, this is like this is like pretty much one of the holy grails of American ornithology. Is this bird back? Because if so, that's going to change things. Like, we're going to have to preserve its habitat. We're going to have to, of course, change um, the entire listing of it through the IUCN from extinct in the wild to critically endangered. So then, of course, there's a lot that goes into it if this bird is definitely back. So basically, the things we need to look at are evidence. First off, there is some incredibly good video clips. They're very, very few. We're going to take a look at least one of those. But there are some really good clips out there on top of audio too. Of course, I posted links to all of this, but the biggest thing is there's been no feathers found. There's been no bodies. There's been no nests. There's no hard evidence. And in science, I know a lot of us want to say, well, that's dumb if you have like all these first-hand accounts and everything else like that. True, but science is not speculation. It starts with speculation, but then you have to have some kind of evidence for it. Like, of course, there's observational and experimental science. And right now, I don't even know what I would classify this as. I guess observational still, since we don't have anything alive to actually look at. But the things we need to take into consideration are this bird's disappeared essentially twice now. It disappeared in the 20s, and they found it again in the 1930s, and then it disappeared from there. And eventually, we do know it still lived up until the 40s because that actually there was a feather I believe found, and there were sightings. But after that, there's like what roughly about a 60-year period where there's just it's a huge like dead zone basically. So this bird has disappeared, so we need to take that into consideration. Even though it's a big bird, it still had enough of a population to actually sustain itself over decades. Second thing is according to James Tanner, of course, in his book, which I'm going to reach down and grab right now. According to James Tanner, in his book, The Ivory-billed Woodpecker, uh, he talks about how sparse these these nesting pairs were, and what I mean by that is he said it was roughly one per every 54 square kilometers, which that's a huge area for a breeding pair of woodpeckers. I mean, you could go walk through the woods and you're going to find pileatids. Well, at least here in the east, you're going to find pileatids. If you're up north of here, yellow-bellied sapsuckers, redheaded woodpeckers around here anyhow. And then just a whole slew of other things like downy, ivory-billed, downy, and hairy woodpeckers and things. So I mean, what I'm saying though is that these other woodpeckers are a lot easier to find, just because they don't have to have gigantic ranges like this. But that seems to be because woodpeckers are kind of turning out. Woodpeckers and owls are, if you've read the blog, those are like my two big things in ornithology. So I've actually been looking into more members of um, the same family that this is from, the Campephalus, basically, like that whole group of the large woodpeckers. And it does seem like most of them just need big territories because, of course, they're big birds. So we're going to take that into consideration that it was 50 some kilometers back then, but that was under prime conditions too. We don't have prime conditions anymore because World War II, we basically logged everything we could. And there's very, very few old growth forests left. So that brings up the question that even Dr. Fitzpatrick from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology had was, did these birds change to where now instead of 50 square kilometers, because they basically plotted out the sightings where they were getting Kent calls and everything, do they now need 100 square kilometers? Which, if that's the case, in the in the location where they were in the Cache River, good luck. Like that's as a field biologist, I'm going to tell you good luck because that is horrible, horrible terrain. I haven't been to that part, but I've been down in Louisiana and I've trudged through the swamps and stuff. Good luck. If you have to cover that many square kilometers, it's not going to happen without thousands of people out there looking. And then you run the risk of disturbing the bird, accidentally destroying, other species that are protected and everything else. So this is no easy task. But it is possible. I mean, look at this. Look at the coelacanth. It was supposed to be extinct for what? How many millions of years? And then someone caught one off the coast of Maine. So I don't rule anything out. But let's take a look at this clip. This is a clip from another area. It's not the Luneau clip. I'm pretty sure most of us have probably seen the Luneau clip by now. This is one that I didn't know existed until recently. This is from Pearl River, and there's a link to the video and a link to the site and everything on the blog. So let's take a look at this. Now you can see how it pops its head up, and I'm gonna try. Let's see if we can't pause this, because the thing about this clip that stands out to me, I have to throw the camera back up here. I know I'm a little cut off, but that's okay. This is really what I wanted to show. Look at that. That is very, very close. I mean, I'm using the female here, which has the full black crest. That looks extremely close to the ivory-billed, to the silhouette. And the thing that made it stand out the most to me is pileated woodpeckers are honestly, that's my favorite bird. So this clip, along with how far away it was and everything else, I mean, when a bird pops its head up, and when you see the actual clip, you can tell just how far away he is. That's too big to be pileated. On top of, there are double knocks, you'll hear, and then in the same area, you have this bird. And pileateds, of course, they'll drum, but they don't typically do that double knock. They may do it, but they'll go in the drumming, of course. So that right there, made me go, whoa, wait a minute now. We're talking about Campephalus here, because a lot of them do the double drums. You can just go with like a rock or something, tap twice, and then you'll get a call back. So I've been on the fence for this for years. Anyone that's talked to me, I'm like, I went from saying there's no way it's back to, well, maybe. Now I'm leaning more towards it is. I really do think that there's a good possibility there's birds still out there, and I honestly, as an ornithologist, hate saying that, believe it or not, because you need hard proof. We don't have that. But the people that have said they've seen it, and their credentials, and that video, the Luneau video, the Kent calls that they've caught, things like that, I think they're out there, but I just hope that if they are, one, we need to find them, because I don't see there being a big population of birds left if they're out there. Two, I'm glad. The second thing we would obviously have to do is preserve that area, and I'm glad that they've already made it critically endangered, which automatically covers anywhere that you would find it. That was that should have been done, a long time ago as a just in case. If there were still people saying that they've seen these birds, and a lot of more like legit ornithologists, not amateurs. That way you don't know, because next thing you know, if someone found the body of an ivory-billed, we don't have, they're still considered extinct. We can't do anything to protect them. We gotta do a flurry of like a law and bill passing to protect this bird now. So I do think that it's back. I don't think that I don't know how long it's going to be back, because at this rate, it just doesn't have the habitat that it needs to sustain a large population. I mean, the woods in that area are starting to come back. It was about 100 years ago that they were logged. So that, I guess that's good. We are basically trying to bring back these old growth forests. But, is it going to be too little too late with both passing the laws and changing the status of the animal? I don't know. I don't think anybody will know that short term anyhow. It's gonna be a long process, and we're gonna have to see. Maybe we will find this. Maybe we won't. Maybe maybe all these were actually just some kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know. This could all end up not turning out to it not being ivory bills too. But this also does raise questions, because we know, at least as far as up to the 80s, that this bird was still alive in Cuba. So, there's a good possibility it's still alive here. What about Cuba? And better yet, what about the imperial woodpecker in Mexico? This raises so many more questions than what it answers, because there's still a lot, like I said in the article, we don't know about the bird. We don't know how long they need to incubate. We don't really know much about the young woodpecker. We don't know if they ever defended their territories. It was never shown. But, there's so many things in that article. And the reason I did it the way I did is I wanted to show there's a lot unknown about this bird to begin with, let alone knowing if it's actually back or not. So this is not going to be an easy situation to be in as a wildlife biologist if you're working on this project. So that's where I stand, and that's going to be the first follow-up video to this. I apologize for being a few days late. The next video I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a non-paid. I don't want anyone to think I'm getting paid for this. It's going to be a non-paid review of some software, some birding software that we're going to take a look at. So that's going to be interesting, because it's basically, you can do quizzes, you can keep life lists, all kinds of stuff with it. So I'm going to do a review of it and see if maybe that's something you guys are interested in picking up. If so, I'll put up links to it on Amazon and everything. But thank everybody for all the for all the reads and everything else. And I'm hoping that some of you guys will actually start commenting on some of this stuff, because I'd like to see. I have the next couple dozen articles figured out what I'm going to do. But if there's anything that anybody wants me to write about, or if you have questions, down here is the email address, and then over here is the blog address. So don't be shy to shoot me an email or something like, hey, what are your feelings on this, or would you mind writing about this? And it doesn't have to be about animals either. Like if you work at a wildlife refuge, if you know someone, hey, you should do a spotlight on this person. I'm absolutely all for that. I want to network as much as we can and get your projects out there. Maybe get you guys some help and exposure in any way that I can. So that's going to be my goal from now on with this, is not just to focus on animals, but focus on the human factor of this as well. But thanks, guys, and I'll see you next time.